Tomb Raider is an adaptation of the video game with the same name. In it, we follow Lara Croft, who is trying to solve the mystery of her father's disappearance by traveling to his last known destination, which happens to be an island holding a cursed tomb. Just a disclaimer, I've never played any of the Tomb Raider video games, so I went into this movie completely free of any nostalgia or knowledge of any references or characters. That being said, I was still rooting for this movie to be good because to this day, Hollywood still hasn't been able to produce a definitively good video game adaptation. So the question is this the first good video game movie? After watching it, I don't know if I can really answer that question. Firstly, I think Alicia Vikander did a great job portraying Lara. This obviously isn't one of her best performances, but I think she did well with what she was given. I would say that she mainly shines when interacting with her father in the movie, played by Dominic West. They had good chemistry and their relationship was probably the best thing about the film. Their history together shown through flashbacks gave me more of a reason to actually care about what was going on and helped give the other characters throughout the story slightly more depth, which they desperately needed. The action scenes were well shot for the most part, but none of them really stood out to me. They definitely looked like they were visually inspired by parts of the games, but in the end, I feel like the action didn't translate as well as the filmmakers wanted it to. It honestly seemed like it would have been more fun to play the scenes than to just watch them because of how generic and drawn out they ended up being. And that's something that I can kind of say about the film as a whole. Other than the father-daughter relationship between Lara and West's character, everything else in the movie felt really cliche and bland. The plot for one was incredibly predictable. We've all seen this before. There's a MacGuffin with a curse that the main character learns about. They try to warn the villain who doesn't believe in that shit. They go into the tomb and it's just classic Indiana Jones from there. It really sucks because at the very end of the movie something somewhat interesting actually started to happen, but it's just left there as a cliffhanger for a potential sequel along with probably the best line in the movie. It's a shame because if the film actually acted upon what it was teasing at the end, it probably would have added some sort of surprise to the plot. However, the more glaring problem here is with the characters. The film is actually pretty empty when it comes to any shred of character development. First of all, most of the people that Lara meets along the way only serve to keep the plot moving. Nick Frost's character is in one scene just to give Lara the money she needs to buy a boat. Daniel Wu, who plays Lu Ren, is the captain of this boat, and I thought that because his father took her father to the island, that there would be this generational thing and that he would be her partner for the adventure, but once they get to the island, they basically get separated until the end of the movie. The villain was also pretty stereotypical. His rivalry with Lara's father was basically the only thing interesting about his character, but otherwise he only has one real dialogue scene with Lara, and most of that was basically exposition. Honestly, when it comes to having characters just talk to each other to help flesh them out, there's really only one of those scenes between Lara and her father. But even then, it doesn't really affect anything character-wise. Literally every person in this movie is the same person they were from start to finish. But then again, how could anyone actually have an arc when most of the movie is filled with constant chase scenes and big action set pieces? This made the movie feel pretty slow throughout its second act, especially. So overall, Tomb Raider isn't the worst video game adaptation we've gotten. It's definitely one of the better ones, but that's not really saying much. I could honestly see people saying that the older Tomb Raider movies were better because of how much more campy they were. Like, watch this scene. It obviously embraces the more over-the-top aspect of the original games, which to its credit makes the whole thing at least a little bit more fun. But in the end, I'm going to give Tomb Raider a 5 out of 10. I can see that they tried with this one, but if they really want to make a sequel, I would recommend they just embrace the fun of the older movies more, kind of like how The Expendables did with its first sequel. Now, I could say that this movie broke history as the first good video game movie because of just how terribly average it is, but it all depends on if you think average should really be considered as good. I personally don't, so if everyone else hates it, all we can do is hope that the upcoming Rampage movie isn't a steaming pile of goat shit.